You know, Rise of the Tomb Raider was always kind of considered a failure, but today we have information from the CEO of Square Enix that that is not the case. It actually was quite the success. What is going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video. If you missed my previous videos today, we did a review for Call of Duty World War II. Check that out when you get the chance. And also, PlayStation announced today that the $199 PS4 helped them achieve their biggest Black Friday sales in PlayStation history. So good news for Sony, and check out that video when you got the time as well. And this one's a little more positive news. Tomb Raider doing extremely well. There's an article here from Game Industry Biz, and I'll have it linked in the description because it goes into more stuff than just about Tomb Raider. But the Tomb Raider stuff here is what I wanted to point out. And he talks about when he took over Square Enix that there was a little bit of misunderstanding there about their expectations with Tomb Raider. And he goes on to say, there are actually lots of misunderstandings here. First of all, Tomb Raider is a very important title and very important piece of IP for us, and nothing has changed about that. The fiscal year prior to the one where I became president was one where overall our earning numbers were not very good. It was immediately before the end of the fiscal year in March that Tomb Raider came out, so we had very high expectations for that. Looking back on that now, I think the target we set for ourselves was extremely high. I say this with the benefit of hindsight now, but at the time, our numbers leading up to the release of Tomb Raider had been very poor, and I think our people were probably banking on that and wondering how much it was going to help our final earnings. In the end, it didn't quite sell as much as we anticipated. And if you recall, they announced that it was sold like something around 13 or 12 million units. Maybe it was like 9 or something like that a couple years ago. And that they were disappointed in those figures, and people thought they were crazy. Like, it sold 9 million copies. How could you be disappointed in that? But I guess their expectations were put up so high. And then, of course, Rise of the Tomb Raider happened. Shown off at E3 one year, supposedly multi-platform. And then at Gamescom, it was quietly, well, not quietly, pretty proudly announced that Microsoft had the exclusive rights to the game, and it turned out to be a timed exclusive for a year. The media kind of hated that idea. A lot of fans, especially on the PlayStation side, were very pissed off at Microsoft for taking what always seemed to be a PlayStation iconic character, you know, Lara Croft, and buying the exclusivity rights for the game. And it's always kind of cast a shadow over the game itself. Everybody kind of says it's a failure because it came out on Xbox first, and then PC a couple months later, and then PS4 a year down the road, and it didn't really achieve its sales potential. But he goes on to say, Mrs. Croft's rebooted adventures have certainly delivered strong sales since. Today, the 2013 Tomb Raider has sold more than 11 million units worldwide, and the 2015 sequel, Rise of the Tomb Raider, has shifted nearly 7 million units. And remember that it wasn't available on the market-dominating PS4 for the first year. So it's almost at 7 million units, definitely more than anybody had anticipated. So that's the kind of thing. We don't get a lot of numbers for very many games, so people do this guessing game. And I wanted to bring this up because I absolutely despise this website, and I hate when people use it to talk about sales. I'm sure you guys know of a website. It's called VGCharts.com, and people use it all the time to talk about sales of video games, because honestly, there really is no good place to get information about that. It's all kind of, you know, closely guarded secrets, and the only time we get stuff is when publishers or developers are willing to share it. So let's go over to VG Charts and see how much they have Rise of the Tomb Raider listed at. And you can see here, they have listed at 3.75 million copies, even though they said it's almost at 7, so it's almost 50%. I mean, they're wrong. They're completely wrong. They're off base by a crap load. And that's just another example of why nobody should use that website. I mean, and I understand now why people who thought that Tomb Raider was not a success, because they go to VG Charts, which people use all the time in their fanboy wars, and they see that it sold 3.7 million, especially in comparison to the original rebooted Tomb Raider, which sold 11 million or 9 or whatever they announced. And people are like, oh, Xbox killed Tomb Raider. It didn't sell very well. If it was on PlayStation first, it would have sold a lot better. But of course, here comes Square Enix, the ones who actually have the sales, and says, no, we're at 7 million. And what does VG Chart say for this one? 3.75. So they're off by 100%, pretty much. 100%. That's pretty a lot to be off by. So that's the public service announcement. Never trust VG Charts. Laugh at people who use VG Charts to try to get that over in an argument about sales. They make their numbers off, and when NeoGAF was actually NeoGAF and not the current cesspool it became, they were kicked out and they were banned from that website because the dude admitted to making up numbers. They're never use them. Period. End of story. I always laugh when people try to quote VG Charts to me. They don't get it. But I understand why people use it, because it's the only place where you can kind of like go to and be like, oh, it sold this much, and it's never right. It's never right. You can find all the articles you want online about why you shouldn't use that website. But this is a good example because we had never gotten sales info for Rise of the Tomb Raider before, and I just wanted to quickly compare it with VG Charts before they alter their numbers. Oh, and that's right. They alter their numbers when they actually get info from developers and publishers and press releases. Like I said, shitty website. Nobody should use it. But you know what? I'm happy for Rise of the Tomb Raider. It is a fantastic game. It deserves all the sales it should get. It's one of the best games of this gen. It was definitely like my top 3 game of the year in 2015 when I played on Xbox. I'm sure it was, on the PlayStation in 2016, one of the best titles then. I really love the rebooted games that they've done for Tomb Raider. And I'm really looking forward to the next one with the kind of leaked Shadow of Tomb Raider game that is supposedly being made by Eidos Montreal. Although I'm a little bit disappointed it's not being made by Crystal Dynamics, who's made the last few of them. So that's kind of disappointing to a certain degree. But otherwise, pretty good news. And also, just a little tidbit quickly, they also talk about Deus Ex in the article, and he said that, there's been reports that Deus Ex has been shelved and they're never going to do another one, but they said that's not the case. We've never said anything about discontinuing that title, but for some reason that's the rumor out on the market. What can I say is that Eidos Montreal has always developed Deus Ex, and the issue is we do not have limitless resources. We have several big titles that we work with, and that's partly a factor in what a lineup looks like. Of course, it would be ideal if we could work on all of them all the time, but the fact of the matter is some titles have to wait their turn. The reason there isn't the Deus Ex right now is just a product of our development lineup because there are other titles we are working on. So yeah, I might come back sometime down the road, but this is a pretty damn good, interesting article if you want to learn about Square Enix's blend of Western and Japanese games, their AR and VR stuff, and all the things about Tomb Raider and Deus Ex. Pretty damn good article. And anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this look at Tomb Raider and this kind of exposing a little bit of VG Charts. Once again, don't go to that website because it's trash. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button to show your support for the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you're always notified when I do drop new content. Make sure to share this out on Twitter or Facebook. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see everyone in the next video. Later, guys.